Keeping score, Rick Horrow. Always talk about the biggest issues in sports for the week and otherwise. And we now effectively head across the pond for a lot of events. It's the summer where American xenophobia says we don't have any big sports across the pond. Oh, except if it's Premier League playoffs, except if it's Wimbledon. How about the French? How about the British Open? Oh, how about the Olympics this year? And so domestic sports clearly in a $1 trillion overall business. We've come up with a number that's about $450 billion. It's a large number, but obviously most of the commerce is impacted across the globe, and it's getting smaller and smaller as a globe every year. We have somebody that can give us a number of different perspectives: English Premier League, WTA, ATP, La Liga, NBA, and otherwise. Genius Sport and its CEO, Mark Locke. How are you?
Hi there, nice to meet you.
Good for you, and I'm glad we're here. You guys are a global leader in sports data technology, distribution, data-driven solutions to sports media, regulated betting markets. Obviously, the betting market issue, let's talk about it first, because that's one of those issues that American fantasy games, daily fantasy, and otherwise have a little bit of a concern with, but it is also incredibly fast-growing everywhere else. What is the future of, in your estimation, sports betting in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Obviously, I'm asked a fair bit, but I mean, it's not really my place to sort of make a call and make a judgment about what the future of the gambling market in the US is. I mean, that's up to the American people to decide. It's up to the politicians to make that call. I think the key things that need to be considered, though, are the effects that the gambling market can have on sports, both positive in terms of improved fan engagement, a lot more interest in the sport and a lot more excitement and involvement, around it, money going back into grassroots as well as some of the sort of less obvious maybe risks to sport if they don't tackle them straight on. And that's what we at Genius Sports try and do, is focus sports in on some of the risks that they're exposed to and make sure that they're well placed to tackle any eventualities in that respect.
Give us an example of a few of those risks specifically, some of your clients, some of your solutions.
Yeah, sure, no worries. I mean, we work with a lot of sports internationally. As you said in your very well put introduction to the business, we're a technology business that really focuses on data. So the way that we operate in one of our products, which is called Sport Integrity Monitor, is to really look at the international betting markets and look at movements in terms of lines and money movements and correlations around officials and games and play. And we look to analyze that and really try and understand the effect that some of these betting markets are having on the game, and whether those effects are natural or just as a result of genuinely innocent play, or whether there's something that might be more interesting to sports security, such as potential match fixing or issues around that. So one of the ways that we help sports is to engage with them and educate them as to what the risks can be. So that's our basic.
Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about that specifically, the integrity of sports, what those risks are, the product, education service, and what do you do in that context for Major League Baseball, EPL, and others around the league specifically?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not going to talk about the specific sports we work with and our specific relationships. It's a key part of what we do is making sure that we're confidential and that we work as closely with sports to help them protect their integrity. But I think some of the key examples are around just player education and official education. I mean, one example that we give often is that a player or an official, whether it's an umpire or whoever, is down the local bar having a beer. They run into somebody, get chatting, let slip that there's potentially an injury or something that's completely innocent. A couple of days later, they see the same guy in the bar. The guy comes up, hands him a few $100s and says, "Thanks very much for the inside information on the match or the game." And he said, "What do you mean the inside information?" "Well, you just helped me win a bet because you gave me something that was, you probably shouldn't have told me. So either you take the money and you keep feeding me results or keep feeding me information, or we're going to shop you for providing that information in the first place." So people can get duped into these events. It's not only, some of the hardcore fixing that goes on that you may think that, is about an outcome. It can be people who are innocently, effectively drafted into that event because they've not had they don't have an understanding of the risks. So we sort of help on all those levels, both technology and education.
Protection, integrity, creativity, good examples. Again, can't be too specific, but you just struck deals with Spanish Soccer and La Liga, correct?
We have indeed entered into engagement with them, yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, obviously, another set of good examples of things that you're doing today. The interesting thing that Americans probably want to know, too, although this is international phenomenon and international shows, how about Leicester City? So we have a 5,000 to 1 against winning the EPL title. What does it say generally, and what do the UK bookmakers feel about it?
I mean, it's super exciting, isn't it, to see everyone loves an underdog, and an underdog of quite that level coming through and winning such a prestigious event is a huge thing. From a betting point of view, it's fantastic. I mean, the bookmakers, obviously they've got hit, and obviously there's they've lost substantial money in a lot of cases. But the reality is, it's great for the game. It brings in focus, at grassroots level. It makes the fans excited and engaged, and it really builds the profile of those events. And that goes all the way through the sport, not only to the people buying tickets at Leicester, but through to the broadcasters, through to the players, the umpires, the shops in the locale. It really does sort of encourage jobs, encourage sort of investment in sport. So, events like that, as much as they are very uncommon, as you said yourself, 5,000 to 1 is pretty unlikely. When they do happen, it's a fantastic thing for sport. It really does show that sports betting, if it's properly regulated and properly understood, can really support the development and the positioning of sport in a regulated market.
Well, and the good point, too, obviously, because of where you're from and what you're doing, the UK appears to lead the world in sport betting regulation, at least from a lot of different perspectives. What can the U.S. learn from the UK approach in this context?
Yeah, I mean, the UK's been doing it a long time, and it's obviously got a lot of experience. It's certainly not perfect. And as many of the architects of the actual legislation themselves will say, but it's good in that what the key message around that I think countries can learn when looking to regulate is around transparency. I mean, that's really what we're looking to do, and to make sure that all of the players, and we're not talking about necessarily the gamblers themselves, but also the operators, the suppliers, everyone involved in the industry is transparent, that they have appropriate probity, that they're well run, well regulated, that there's transparency all the way up, so that the integrity of the games can be protected, but also the players can be protected. It's a lot easier to protect a player and make sure that there's no underage gambling, make sure that there's no fraud going on, and make sure that people who, the very small number of people who need some help are helped if there's transparency. When the sports bettors are looking at operating in illegal markets with offshore operators who don't have that level of transparency and don't have that level of regulation, obviously the risks to them are much, much higher. So we support this approach. We think that there are definitely improvements that can be made, and certainly with US, with the US market being the way it's structured, with the sports so US focused and so such a sort of fabric of the way and the culture in the US, I think that the US can do a fantastic job when it does, if it does, choose to regulate.
Interesting, and I guess finally, from the overall global sports perspective, the core television attendance, all aspects, corporate partnership, you could argue really revolve around protecting the integrity of the games, our only maybe reality TV show in a world of virtual and in the world of VOD. So do you see it as maybe moral obligation? May sound a little too corny, but do you feel sometimes when you go to work on Mondays you're kind of helping save sport?
Yeah, I mean, moral obligation might be a bit corny, but I do think there is an obligation from all participants within sport, whether that's suppliers like us, whether that's the gaming, gambling operators, to make sure that they safeguard the sports, the events, and make sure that those events are run and operated in a transparent manner to make sure that everybody continues to enjoy them. There's nothing worse than calling into question your favourite team or issues around that or running any risks around that. Well, it's so simple to just put that level of protection in, that level of regulation in, that means that those sports are protected, the fans are protected, the players are protected, and everybody is able to enjoy those games for what they are, which is frankly, especially in the US, part of the culture that's made the country so great.
Well, simple to do because you do it well, and we need more of it, and thank you very much for your time and your commitment to sport. Mark Locke, CEO, Genius Sports. Rick Horrow, be back in a minute.